7.7. Education focus, comparing views and connecting with learning. A show that brings together experts, parents, listeners to discuss the matters of education. Welcome you all. Our listeners, I'm happy as your host, Simon Masiga, an education journalist who has been doing this show for a couple of years now to transform education in our country and in our region. From now through the hour of 11, we'll be listening to experts from the education sector, from the profession of teaching, from the government, the local government, and the parents who are stakeholders for our education. Our dear listeners, I'm happy to introduce to you the Honorable Namna Vincent, the Minister in charge of education. He will come to us shortly. The Professor Mukaya Isaac, coming as an educationist and a senior researcher. And our dear parent, who is joined to join us on a call from the region of Ukereya, Mr. Arion Ben. I'm happy to let you know that today we are reflecting on integrating community service into the teaching and learning process. Let me give our guests to greet us, and then we will start. I'll start with our senior researcher, Professor Mukaya Isaac.
Yes, our dear listeners, as our moderator has already said, my name is Mukaya Isaac Isaiah. Yes, and I am an education researcher, and I've worked for a couple of years as an educationist, starting from the secondary school level up to the tertiary institutions. And right now I'm working with the University of Belfast in the UK. And I'm a lecturer there. And I'm also working at Makerere University as an assistant researcher at the College of Education and External Studies. And I'm really glad to be here. And I hope that you'll have a good experience at this place with our listeners. Thank you very much, Martha Radio, and our dear listeners. Please be tuned for better is coming. Thank you very much.
Thank you, our dear professor, for accepting to be on this show today. We'll listen to our Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Simon. I'm called Namna Vincent, Minister of Education and Sports. I was given an opportunity by Jose to work as a minister, of which I have been working hand in hand with the ministry to make sure that we fulfill what Jose wants his children, grandsons to get. And I hope we are doing well with the ministry. Personally, I was a teacher, I've been a commissioner, and I've worked in all departments in education. Finally, I'm now a minister. So I'm happy to be here.
Thank you, our Honorable Minister, for accepting to schedule your time to share with our dear listeners who are our parents, our guardians and teachers, and education stakeholders. To our professor, in a government white paper, we see that education is highlighted as one of the fundamentals in transforming our nation, and especially in the focus of the aims of education, focusing on supporting and integrating community service in the process of teaching and learning. Could you share with our parents and our listeners and other education stakeholders what you would regard as the central role in making community service part of learning? Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Simon. Looking at education, especially in Uganda, there are things that I believe that we ought to know as stakeholders, that is dealing with the teachers, dealing with the educationists, and then the guardians of the parents of the children. I will take relation to, just like I said, the country Uganda, our education system, where it is currently. And if I take you back from the history, you realize that one of the fundamentals of education systems, if I were to relate to the African communities, when we look at the African indigenous education, you'll find that one of the most important things was to look at how communities are able to survive in the environment where they're residing, how are they able to continue with their legacies, their cultural practices, and usually we call it sustainability and continuity. So I think this is a very important fact if we are to discuss anything to do with education. When I come to the current times, realize that the most important aspect here is the society and its needs and demands, creating the idea in which the ideas that we consider when we come up with any education system. Now, if you consider with what you just said, Simon, about the white paper, you realize that the end goal of this education was to have people in the society that actually benefited the growth and progress of the community as per se, we are talking about Uganda. So which means it's very important for us to look at the education as a fact that is helping us progress as a nation, but starting with an individual who is the citizen. And these are the people that go through the education system and become the leaders, the parents, the stakeholders of the nation, as per se. So it is very important for us to look at the education system as a very important factor in building and progress, building the country and how it progresses, as per se. So now, from this perspective, I hope that everyone that is listening now understands why it's an important factor. That it's not just about the teachers or the learners, but it's a fact that is about each and every person in our society as a country, because it dictates where we are going to as a country. And I relate to when you look at the different perspectives of education from the global perspective. As a researcher, I've experienced education systems from different countries, and you'll find that there are quite some differences, but based on the desires, the needs, the goals of specific societies, which actually affirms the fact that whatever we're doing must be customized to the interests of our societies, our communities. And if I break it down, that if you look at what the government is doing, and Mr. Minister, I'm really so impressed with the idea that we are thinking of that we are trying to post the new curriculum, the lower secondary, and it's actually affirming this situation, because if you read through and you understand that we are fostering for things like creativity, ideas that are customized to regions, whereby teachers from northern Uganda must customize their education approaches to fit the people in that society different from the other societies around the world, which actually is affirming the fact that we need to look at education as something that is supposed to be an engine of progress in a specific society. So now I'm narrowing down to how best can we really have this education And you realize that now, as an educationist, I'm going to speak from the perspective of the teacher. Yes, so I would quote we've had many scholars in our line of education profession that have come up with ideas that help us understand education better. And if I am to quote, you realize we have scholars like Casey talking about education. We have ideologies like, we have people like Robinson with this analogy. And all these things come up to show us that the education now, as the educator or as the teacher, there is a very important role that we play in building these people who are going to become citizens in the future. And one time I had a discussion with a friend of mine, that is Dr. Sekuso, and he claimed that why is it that in some communities we have people have certain behaviors that actually don't reflect the process of education. He made examples like when you go to a place that where you think people are educated and you find a place that is littered, yes, at a tertiary institution, which means actually we have a problem here where people just go through systems, but actually they are not educated. And we've had this analogy that people say that going through school doesn't make you educated. And one of the reasons is because the teaching methodologies and the learning activities that people experience are actually not effective. And this is where we come in and say that as teachers, as educators, we need to design learning experiences that actually involve, especially the learner, and interact the activity with the society around. Because remember when I said at the start that it's very important to know that whatever the process and outcome of education is supposed to end as a result of impacting the society around. And this point we say that with the perspective of practical involvement in the learning experiences to create a better and a holistic learner or citizen, it is important to incorporate whatever we are teaching in what we call the real life. And from this basis is where I stand, that all teachers, we need to understand what we are teaching and how it makes sense in the real life. In the real life situation of that particular society. I'll give an example. If I am going to teach in spaces like Ukraine, where we've had, or maybe when you talk about Israel, where we've had civil wars, we've had the war, serious war, the approach should be very different and should be customized to that nature of these learners, the situations, the environment, and this is what education must be. Rather than the situation where we have been here, but we learn things, we teach things that actually don't make sense to the people at that particular time. And I love the fact that Honorable Minister, the government is trying to has actually realized this problem and is trying to come up with these ideas where we see the new curriculum. And I hope that we can have more reforms of this education, which actually makes much more sense. And I will end by saying that based on our history, we realize that the education has been coming through many reforms, but which are engineered by the situations at that time. So if we neglect the fact that society is always changing, as we say in philosophy, that concept of continuity and change, we might end up losing it as a country. And I want to end my submission. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Professor Mukaya. That was very elaborative. As a teacher, you appreciate that integrating community service is making the education to be more indigenous, more apparent to the societal needs, and also elaborate how the value of voluntarism of these learners understanding the values. Honorable Minister, the government asked that education should address the social issues that a learner and the community and the parents are really experiencing. I would like that we would listen to you as an education officer. Why is it important to emphasize the civic responsibility of learners as they take and lead part of the curriculum?
Okay, thank you, Simon. Our listeners and viewers, I'm happy to be part of this group you are listening to. Today the day I was going for campaign, but I said every person try to enlighten more on this. Now, the issue of civic responsibility and practical engagement started in 1940, where we had Thomas Education Committee, and it was developed whereby we wanted to engage the community by setting up a board of governors. The board of governors, we get them from the community. We had to come up afterwards with the PTA, whereby we needed to involve the community to be part of the education system of these schools, how they are working. And majorly, the reason behind that, we wanted to make the community be responsible for whatever goes in the education system. In case our kids or our children are not performing well, are behaving badly, we need to be responsible for whatever is happening. So that's how it was developed. We came up with the board of governors, we came up with the PTA, where we select these people from the community. So how is this situation helping us? So we already involved them in the curriculum, that when we are designing, we make sure that what we are talking about, what we are teaching, what they are learning, part of it is from the community. I can cite out an example of agriculture. A school may have no garden to carry out agriculture, but the neighbors may be growing in the commodities they are talking about. So for such a case, if they are covering work in agriculture, they are free, in case they are in good terms with their community, to involve them. We go to a neighbor's garden, they show their children how, like banana, coffee, those plants. You may not find coffee at school, but in the neighborhood, in the community, it is there. Then you teach the children as also sensitive in their community. Because these children, they are the ones who are going to go back and teach those who have not got a chance to go to school. So we need to be involved in the community, because there is where we need them, and there is where the community people they need us. And again, in the community, we are talking about the even organizations like NGOs. These NGOs can support us. Recently, we have JICA. It is supporting us. It may not be government money, but it is just from Japan. They are organizing and bringing money. That's just an example. Supporting the science teachers. How we started the allowances for science teachers. It was JICA from Japan. But we can come back to the grassroots, whereby the communities, people can also solicit PTA, and that money is used to supplement on the salary of the teachers. It may not be enough, but we use the community, the parents, to come up. Then also, we need to document the success of our stories. When we document the success of our stories, this will be where we bring out people who have performed well, the people, their background of the school, the founders of the school, all those things, where the school has come from. And when we do that, we sensitize the community that this school, for example, was started by Kwame Nkrumah. So they can give an example of, let's say, you can bring like if it is St. Vincent, you may find that the school was started by Vincent and their friends. You may find that it was started by people who were in the community and they did a community school, implying that in the near future you may find them setting up in another school, because the school may be here and it is far from other areas. Then other people also may come and copy what happened here. They also start theirs, so that the children can move a shorter distance. So in all cases, we need the community, and there are so many other reasons why we need civic responsibility, like a market. We can have a need for beans, but when the beans can be supplied by the community at a cheaper cost. And I can cite out examples where schools have got parents who are supplying beans in form of school fees. and it helps them so much. You know, being trained to look for buyers, they just bring the school, then they convert that to cash, and then it becomes school fees of the students. So in all cases, we need for responsibilities of these parents, the community, and all the people who are near the school. I will submit more. Let me stop there for a minute. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. You talked about the community, and I've been thinking about how parents receive children. You talked about the farm, and I am happy that one of our parents has joined us, and I want to be sure he's there. Mr. Ayembo, are you there? Are you there, Mr. Ayembo?
Thank you, Simon. You called me when I'm still in the garden, because here mostly we go to the garden twice a day. We wake up at 6, go to the garden up to 10, go back home after lunch, and also go up to the garden and continue with the garden work up to 6. So based on our topic, integrating community service into the teaching and learning process, we take this opportunity to say hello to all our listeners. Good evening. My name is Ariong Ben, a respected parent and a maize grower. So our topic, it simply means learning by helping others, turning lessons into actions that make your community a better place. For example, if you learn about the environment in school, you could plant trees to protect nature. That way, you use what you learn in school to make a real difference. So as a proud parent, I see community service as an opportunity for learners to use what they learn in class to improve the lives of people around them. It could be activities like in the community, planting trees, visiting the elderly, or helping in local health drives. For example, you might help clean up your neighborhood, plant trees, visit old people who are lonely, or help out when there is a health event in your town. Community service also teaches young people responsibility, empathy, and cooperation. So when young children participate in these activities, they become or they develop a sense of belonging and pride in their community. By doing these things, children just work together and take responsibility. It also helps them feel proud of where they live. For example, some of us from East Moaso, most people from Teso, as they come to Kampala, they even stop using their local language. They tend to get into so much into the language they learn from here, which also removes that pride which the students get as they engage in community service.
Maybe you would want to tell us more specifically from the experience, how have you seen this integration, bridging the gap between school and your life? We'll be happy to listen to that comment as you share your story.
So community service also helps to bridge the gap between school and real life. Many students think education is just about passing exams. But through community service, they realize that knowledge should serve society. So community service helps children understand that school isn't just about exams. Because as they engage in community activities like planting trees, visiting the area, they came to know that school isn't just about passing exams, because they learn a lot as they engage in such activities. What you learn can actually be used to make the world better. So as they engage in these activities, when you visit the area, when you participate in the health events in your town, such activities can make the world a better place to be.
Okay, and that's very helpful. And so in your view, which are some of the values that can really be strengthened by integrating community service in learning?
Community service also strengthens values like respect, discipline, and teamwork, which are critical in nation building. So when schools integrate such practices, parents like me see a visible change in our children. They become more respectful, confident, and socially responsible. So as a parent, we notice, or as parents, we notice that children who help others become more confident, kind, and responsible. So integrating community service into the teaching and learning process as our topic actually guides our students or prepares them to be responsible children, to be confident, to be kind, and also to make the world a better place. Thank you so much, our moderator. Back to you.
I appreciate that. That was very tremendous listening to you. And our dear viewers will take a very short commercial break, very short. And it is going to help us to reflect about integrating community service in our learning. It will be a very short break, and as I come back, I'll listen to some voices from you talking about the same. Thank you. Stay tuned on 97.7 Mount Elgon Radio. Listen to a few thoughts from you, our listeners, about the same, and we'll be glad to reflect on some of these with you. Coming to us is our Honorable Minister and our Professor who are in the studio. But before they make comments about the same, we'll listen to you coming to us, our listeners, on the century.
Community learning services or service helps the learners to learn with purpose wish such programs come in early at the start of a learner's engagement in school. Why? Because when a learner, in most cases, people don't know why they do certain courses. I am focusing on university students, but also in lower classes. If you engage with the community as early as possible, you easily identify the area of study. You know, things that are really practical in a community, and so you focus your mind or your energy on studying to solve such issues in community. So a learner will study on purpose or with purpose. Not saying I want to be an air hostess when I am coming from Bududa, and then I do not know how many airstrips or airplanes that we have in the country, and yet I can be a community development officer or engagement officer and change a lot in my community. But that is only possible when I am on ground in the community. The institution where I'm learning from has engaged me to the community to see the realities in the community. Probably at that early stage, I can change my mind.
So, Professor, you can listen to that voice. What comment would you say for educationists to really implement community service in learning? Shortly, then we'll listen to the Honorable Minister.
Yes, thank you very much, Simon. Actually, I like that observation that it is a very important for students to learners to engage with the environment. Actually, it should be the inspiration, like I said in the first place. The environment should be the inspiration of the relevance of the education. Yes, actually, on that note, actually, I have had some conversations with some of our head teachers, and interacted with one of the head teachers, and that is Mike, and he had a concern in one workshop, and he mentioned that he's worried for our education system. That one time a survey was done with students of senior 1, and they were asked what careers would they love to really take up on. And it was worrying in this submission that learners still have the minds that actually the old people had that time, whereby they talk about professions they don't understand, they talk about professions out of excitement, which is worrying that there is still that gap of knowledge on why people are learning. And I think in my take it's a very important aspect that I will present to you, Right Honorable Minister, that these are some of the concerns that people really have to we have to deal with as a country. Because however much these are young people, but one time there will be the leaders, there will be the parents, there will be they will take the country forward, and we still have people having such mindsets. I believe, and I think it's a bit dangerous for us as a country. So I think this is something that should be taken with much more concern on information, on exposing our learners as early as possible. And you realize that in some of the developed countries that we benchmark from, you realize that learners are presented with career opportunities at the early age. You find young children levels of 8, 10, 7, picking up careers of their interest. And you realize that actually as a concern and some of the developed education systems, for example, countries like Finland, you find that the early education has actually a lot of investment. So I think when this person has talked about presenting the social inclusion at an early stage, I think it's the same that is happening, that we need to borrow we need to selectively borrow this idea of investing more in the early childhood education, whereby we can understand these children as early as possible. That is to do with their potentials, and in addition, if we have them connected, exposed to the society, we can have them being inspired for the right reasons and have a true inspiration. But realize that some learners, you might find another nation careers just because it's the parents' idea. Yeah? But it's not out of their interaction in society and feeling the need for them to take up this responsibility. Because you see that education, being empowered, is supposed to result in service. And I remember one time we had a discussion when one scholar mentioned that for him, for her, that for someone to gain education, the acquisition of knowledge should result in one action. And as long as there's no action, that you claim that you are equally full. Yes, so I really think this is an important factor for us to consider at an early age, and also incorporate the society for these learners in order to have the right motivation that is realistic and relevant to the society. Thank you very much.
Wow. Thank you, Professor. And I'm very glad, because shaping career goals is a very central purpose of education. And we can never shape career goal without really having these learners integrated. We will be happy to listen from your Honorable Minister. And then if you're able to make comments about how does the government budget plan to have really this implemented. We'll do it shortly, and then we'll come to a close.
Thank you, Simon, and all our listeners and those who have submitted, our parents. Thank you so much. I'm so happy that people have liked what the government is bringing up. Actually, before I leave that, I want to begin with Simon's issue of the budget. With the Ministry of Education is the key, is among the things you're supposed to put in the money. Now, the first step was to change the budget, and we started with science teachers. We want people to implement this CBC, which is going to help us involve the community. And any teacher who is sabotaging our program, teaching in the old curriculum, there we are going to be tough for you. Even we are going to order the RDCs to move in the schools to ask those teachers to make sure that we follow the CBC. The budget is already set. The arts teachers, the humanities, we have budgeted for them in the next financial year. We are beginning with 25% to help us implement this community service, the CBC, because it calls for that, where the community is involved. And these students, they have to imitate. They have to see these engineers who are in the community. When they see them, they will admire, because you have to take them out when you're doing teaching in the new curriculum. That's what the government is emphasizing. And please, with what Isaiah was saying, I wanted to respond with our professor, that when it comes to early childhood, we are very serious there. The first thing was the teacher's policy. And we have said, any teacher, be it in nursery, primary, we need a degree to emphasize the early childhood training. We want them to be exposed, and we want them to implement the new way of teaching. And we are emphasizing that. That's how we are starting to care for this early childhood. A degree is a must. We are giving it 5 years from now, and teachers, wherever you are, please, better go back and study. The ambassador is there. You can go to university, you can go to State House, you can come at the ministry. We have forms you can come and fill, and make sure you go back and study. You can even get loans, you go back and study. But what I wanted to complete with about the issue of community involvement, this issue of community involvement and including it in our curriculum, how does it help us? It helps us in addressing real world needs. The real world needs. Now we find an area, I can cite an example of us, where we discovered that we need petrol. Immediately we realized we had to go in Bunyoro, where our fuel is, and then we set up an institution there. All the students are admitted, they are even studying, and it is hands-on. In the community, they see how it is mind from the ground. So that's what we are trying to emphasize. We are supposed to involve them in real world needs. What do we need at the moment? That's what we are emphasizing when we are teaching you teachers who are in the schools. When you are teaching, involve the community, and in your teaching, take out the children to see what is happening in the real world. Otherwise, thank you, Simon, for allowing me to come and be hosted in here. I wish you well, and our listeners, I wish you well, and vote for our Mzee. Please don't forget, because you have to have this Uganda developed. Thank you so much. I thank you so much.
Thank you, our Honorable Minister. Our listeners, we can't emphasize enough that every one of us have to contribute positively to our community. And by having community service integrated in our learning, we'll be able to have people develop those skills. We believe that those who have been listening will be able to follow us today and learn how to integrate this teaching practice into community service. On 97.7 FM, Mount Elgon Radio, a child who serves today will lead tomorrow. I remain your host and ask you to follow us on hashtag and social media Education Focus. We'll be happy to connect more on our Facebook account and enjoy more. To our dear guests, we are glad that you could make time here. Professor Mukai Isaac, thank you for making time here. And our Honorable Minister, Namna Vincent, we're very glad. And our parents were able to call in and were able to speak in this program. Until then, shalom.
Yeah.